Hello and welcome to our Insights podcast. I'm Leon Herszon, your host, CEO of Value Edge Group, and I have the pleasure to have with me my dear friend Keith Wilson, an expert in everything Agile and much more, project management, you name it. So welcome, Keith.
Well, thanks, Leon. And it's been a pleasure being your friend and working with you over the past, 12 years or more.
Yes, a long time. All right. So, as I mentioned here, you are an expert in Agile. You know those different methodologies and approaches. So, what does exactly Agile mean for our viewers and listeners? They are not very aware of that today, beyond a set of practices. How would you define Agile?
Well, it's actually not a practices or a framework or a method. It's a philosophy, an approach that says we must be customer-centric or focused on the customer. It's an approach that says we need to be responsive and we need to be agile enough to adjust to this digital era. Another myth around Agile is it's new. The Agile Manifesto is a full-blown adult, written in 2001, and another myth, it's just for software. Granted, it started with software, but it's gone way beyond there. It was as early as 2015 where we're hearing business agility, organizational agility, or enterprise agility, where the whole organization is adopting it.
Yeah, and I remember in 2016, to your point, Keith, when I was with FIAL, we decided to go to the route of business agility. So we wanted to use some type of framework, and there are many out there, and we use as a reference Scrum, right? But not implementing Scrum. The Scrum principles, as you mentioned, the philosophy of transparency, of teamwork, of empowerment, that transformed the organization in a way that people started to see everything that everybody else was doing was a team effort, not individual. And we actually implemented the same philosophy for sales, for finances, so no software development at all in many different areas. So yeah, I agree 100% with you. It's a philosophy, it's an approach, and companies can benefit from that, right?
Absolutely. And my clients too have ranged from R&D departments, marketing campaigns, developing those, course development, so way beyond software.
And how do you explain the difference between the traditional PMI calls predictive or waterfall with the agile or adaptive approach? What is the difference between these two?
The best analogy I've used is buying a house versus building a house. Waterfall is about building a house. I've got a lockdown scope. It's in this blueprint. It's unlikely to change. And based on that scope of work, the contractor predicts the time and the cost. Usually predict wrong, but we've got that locked down. Agile is more like buying a house. You explain to your realtor your vision of the house, maybe some key features like a 2-car garage and 3-bedroom, and you also share with your realtor your budget. I cannot go over, say, $600,000. And you also share with your realtor your move-in date. I've sold my existing house. We have to be in a new place by March 1. Now, your realtor, if they're any good, are taking those constraints and then starting to find some homes to show you. They take you on an outing. Let's call the outing a sprint. So you go out this weekend and you go and look at some different homes and you get some new ideas. Hey, I think I like neighborhood Y better than neighborhood X. Gee, I was thinking about carpet, but tile might be better. Okay, you feed that back to your realtor. Next weekend, another sprint, another outing, and you learn some more things. And eventually, after a series of these sprints, you lock down on a home. Now, does it have everything you want? Well, if you're a multimillionaire, probably. But if you're like me, no. But it's got your top prioritized items, which may have changed from your the first conversation with the realtor to now what you're looking at. kind of reminds me when I moved to the San Francisco Bay Area. I said, I want to live by the ocean. The realtor said, no, you don't. I said, yeah, I
No, you
do.
don't.
And I was thinking of the ocean like Florida, where I live right now. There, it's foggy, a little cold, a little. So, yeah, she was right. I didn't really want that. My vision of what I got was far different than what I thought at the beginning.
What a great analogy. That's great, Keith. Thank you. And I think the agile, one of the principles, the way I understand, is that welcomes changes on a waterfall. As you mentioned, when you build a house, the requirements, everything is set up at the beginning, and you actually don't want this thing to change a lot. You
Right.
have to follow some procedures to control changes. On an agile, you're much open to those. As you mentioned, you go to that iteration, that sprint, and then now I want this. So requirements keep changing.
Yeah, and we have to be agile enough to accept those requirements. And John P. Carter, in his book called Accelerate, he says that the existing systems, structures, methods we know are not going to be sufficient to remain competitive in the digital era. He said what we need to do is not trash everything, but move towards a method that most entrepreneurs would know about. So what he's talking about is small, empowered teams that can react to the change. Not saying, sorry, this is the plan, it's locked down, and oh my goodness, we got an elaborate change control. So we use the word dynamic as dynamic backlog. But I know that's usually a marketing buzzword, oh, it's dynamic, but it really is true that the backlog should be changed and reprioritized regularly.
And I think I saw in one of your presentations that you mentioned out of Scrum, Kanban, Safe, Scale Agile framework, that Scrum is the number one used
It is.
worldwide, right? Is the number one approach that people use. Uh, how should teams decide what is the right framework for them to use? And it's not only Scrum, Kanban, Safe. You have you have different types of. You even have Scrum Ban.
Yes.
You have
Discipline Agile.
you have a PMI launched some time ago, Discipline
Yeah.
Agile, and how would they decide what is the best approach for their project, for their initiative, or even for their organization?
And it can get very confusing because all these terms are new and what's the right one? One of the problems is that people have said it's Scrum and they force fit that. That's like force fitting waterfall previously. Now, it's a good fit if your backlog is not locked down. So, in other words, your scope is not fully locked down. It's also a good fit if your work is conducive to iterative development. If not, it's probably the wrong method. It also involves a small team, one scrum master, one product owner, and 5 to 10 or so developers. But you can say, wait a minute, I do IT trouble tickets. It's a big team of people. It doesn't make sense to putting our trouble tickets in 2 week boxes. This is not the right method. And furthermore, if you're using Scrum, next thing you know, you've got a bunch of Scrum teams, 100, 200, and you wake up going, wow, these teams are not synchronizing together. We have dependencies, but we don't understand them. We've got to scale. And Scrum is for a team. The dominant scaling method is called Scaled Agile Framework, aka SAFE, and it is for teams of teams. So there's a logical progression from Scrum to SAFE as you get more and more teams. But I worked with a team with a major oil and gas company, and one of many teams I coached there, and they were in SAFE. So I said to them, do you have a need to synchronize with these other teams? No, no, we do training logistics. Do you have any dependencies, or do these teams have dependencies on you? No, not at all. So I said, well, maybe this is not the right place for you to be. Then I said,
Uh-huh.
does it make sense for you to take these training logistics requests and put them in these 2 week buckets called sprints? No, they said, we got ongoing training requests. It doesn't help us to put them in 2 week sprints. So I said, I get it. Let's get you out of SAFE, let's get you out of Scrum, and let's set you up with Kanban as a way to visualize the flow and optimize the flow of work. So it's really important that even if the whole organization is moving to Agile at a team level, let them choose their wow or way of working.
Segueing on your way of working, I read this book from PMI, The Discipline Agile Way of Working, the WOW. Very interesting. Can you elaborate a little bit more, because you work with Discipline Agile? How organizations define their own way of working, their own WOW, rather than following a prescriptive, which seems to be better that you adjust to your condition and not try, as you mentioned, to force an approach into an organization. So, what is your suggestion for organizations who try to find their own way of working?
Well, first, it's got to start with leadership. In the 17th state of Agile, they talk about impediments to reaching business agility. A couple of the ones at the very top are leadership's not on board and the culture's at odds to it. So we need to deal with those things. Then we need to look at what is the value of moving towards Agile. We worked with a consulting firm that had about 200 IT professionals, yet most of their clients were using Agile and they weren't. So, wow, we better catch up. There's a value in us being able to understand how our clients work and work that way as well. So understanding the value, we're not just moving to it for moving sake. And a lot of companies do that. And we get what we call Agile in name only. Bob was a project manager. We now call him a Scrum Master. Jane was a BA. We now call her a PO. We stand up every day. We're Agile. No, you're not. So at an organization level, determine the value of transitioning to Agile, then implement an organizational change management approach. Then when we get to the team level, let the teams choose what the best fit is. And a hybrid is very popular, which means maybe it's some of Scrum and some of waterfall, some of Scrum, some of Kanban. And I just became an advanced safe practice consultant, and a good portion of that certification was focused on customizing safe for the clients to fit the way they work, or to have them choose their wow, which is the title of the Discipline Agile book by Scott Ambler and Mark Lyons.
Very nice, very nice. So, what would you say, Keith? You have done so many, not only training but consulting, helping organizations to be more successful implementing Agile. What would you say is the main challenges that organizations face? Is it executives buy-in? Is it trying to force? What is the main challenge or main challenges that those companies have?
Well, the two challenges I would mention is leadership has to be on board. So we insist that there's a leadership workshop at the very beginning to get them on board.
Mm.
The other is they just kind of treat it like, well, we're just going to move to Agile. It's a big project. It's a big project that needs an Agile transformation strategy, which should align to organizational change management, because we're actually changing the way in which we're going to work. So what I like to do is take 3 steps from Kotter's 8 steps of leading change, which is a sense of urgency. Why are we moving towards this? Developing a powerful coalition that can actually support it, and then creating the vision. I then segue from Kotter's into ADKAR, and the A in ADKAR is awareness. We let teams be aware of the vision that we've created, be aware that leadership is on board with this. And then the D is desire. How are we going to convince these people that this is a good thing to do? Well, we're going to say you're now part of an empowered team. Your voice is going to be heard daily. You get to help build valuable products and services and see results every 2 weeks. Not hard to get the desire with all that. Then there's the knowledge. It does require training. Is Scrum easy?
Mm-hmm.
Sure, it's easy. 3 roles, 3 artifacts, 5 events. But it does require training. I've seen so many organizations that didn't provide the training. In fact, I had a call from one lady. She said, Keith, I hear you're an Agile coach. I've been an administrative assistant all my life. They tell me I now need to be a Scrum Master. I don't know what that is. They tell me on Monday I'm attending something called PI planning. No clue what that is. So I thought, oh my goodness, they set her up for failure. So I coached her the best I could within the limited time, but everybody should have the appropriate level of training. Scrum Master, product owner, product manager, team members, they all need the right level of training. So that's the an ADKAR: awareness, desire, knowledge, ability. So a lot of organizations have done 2-day training. Good luck. Go forth. Be agile. Well, it fails. You need somebody to help set up that team. You need somebody to create their initial backlog, to set up their definition of done, the definition of ready, the team agreement, to make sure the team has chosen the right wow, to customize their method. So that's the ability. And then after that, we need reinforcement. If there's not reinforcements, like, yeah, cool, well, that was some agile stuff, and some Canadian hockey player came in here talking to me about it, but yeah, we're back to our same old, same old. So we need to have that reinforcement through a LACE, Lean Agile Center of Excellence, and through the leadership being on board. So ADKAR: awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, reinforcement. But I start with the 3 steps from Cotter's sense of urgency, powerful coalition, and creating the vision.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this recipe. I'm pretty sure our viewers will appreciate, and of course, everyone listening and watching our conversation, feel free to connect with Keith. He's on LinkedIn, and also we can connect with us here. A lot of experience, Keith. And now I want to bring our conversation to AI, which is transforming the world the way we see it. So we all know that AI is changing society. I think there are people who are concerned, other people think nothing's going to happen. Well, it will change. How is AI reshaping agile teams, delivery teams? How do you see those AI influencing the agile practices that you just mentioned? What are the main challenges? I know a lot of questions, but let's talk about AI a little bit. I think not a single chat I have, we don't touch about AI because that's what's dominating everybody's conversation. So if you can share a little bit your perspective.
And it's a tool that we as Agilists need to know how to use. You can rebel it, and anytime there's been a major change moving towards ATMs, oh, all the bank people are going to get laid off, moving towards online searching, oh, all the researchers are going to get laid off. And then with AI, we've got all these sci-fi movies about robots taking over and stuff. So yeah, there's always these concerns, but I think the way to look at it, it's a tool. And how can we leverage that tool? Well, if I'm a product owner, I'm going to say, here are the overall features we're responsible for. Write the associated stories. Now, I'm going to take those stories verbatim and say, oh, great, we got it. No, you need to have that sanity check to look at it and to edit it. Okay, now I've cleaned up the stories. They're looking good. I've shared it with my team. We brainstormed them. It's a good starting point. Now I'm going to say to AI, please write measurable acceptance criteria using the given, when, then process for each of these stories. And I would like 3 acceptance criteria minimum per story. Great. So now again, we sanitize that and whatnot. I might then feed my whole backlog into the AI tool that I'm using and say, would you please prioritize it, giving these constraints or these variables? It'll help me out with that. That's from a product owner perspective. What about from a Scrum Master's perspective? You basically feed in some metrics about your team and say, what would you recommend to make my team more efficient? You maybe turn on AI to take the meeting notes and summarize them from the meetings you've got. You maybe ask AI to take these impediments that have been identified, to prioritize them and suggest potential action items for each impediment. From a product manager's perspective, you can help it do research. I'm targeting the Gen Z market, and I need to know certain trends with respect to these types of products or services. So it certainly is a valuable tool that can present the information quickly, but it's garbage in, garbage out. So you got to look at what you're feeding it. Furthermore, you've got to be very careful you're not feeding it confidential information, right? There's already been a lot of
Mhm.
nightmares like that, like a lawyer who had AI reference a case that was a hallucination that didn't even
Yes,
exist.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, there's you got to use it, but use it carefully and still have that human check it and review it.
Yeah, I was having several conversations about AI, and that topic always comes in, is to validate, use our critical thinking to validate the output and not just accept as is, and how we start getting concerned about the younger generation using that from the get-go and not having to exercise critical thinking, just receiving and using all this information, because AI has a tendency to agree it's built to agree with the person providing the prompt,
Right.
right?
And it's
So
also has
you write
biasness in
something
there too.
very strange, and it's gonna say, "Wow, great idea." No, it's not. It's
No,
a
it's not a
horrible
good idea.
idea. It's a
Yeah,
horrible idea.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
we've said that like when calculators came out, kids are no longer going to know how to add, or when spell check came out. They still have to learn the basics of how do we do math, how do we spell and read and write properly, and we still need that human interface, even though AI has generated a great story or a great idea.
Very good. Very good. Um, Tell me one highly successful AI, I'm sorry, agile implementation. You don't need, of course, to provide details about the company name or anything like that, but tell us a very successful and then a failure. And what happened? Why it was successful and then why it was a failure on another case?
Well, at a major oil and gas company, we did crawl, walk, run. So the crawl was setting up Scrum teams. Then we started expanding the training. But then we said, okay, we now need coaches. So we've got an army of coaches, including myself there, to provide coaching for the teams. Then they said, we need to scale. And so they moved into the full implementation of SAFe, and it was very, very successful. SAFe has some amazing results about the success with their implementations. Where I've seen failures is we just do it. Hey, let's go set up some Scrum teams. And they hire coaches that only know Scrum. That's like hiring a carpenter that only has a hammer in his or her toolbox. They see every problem as a nail. They're not knowing how to customize it. They're not knowing other methods. And they try to set up these Scrum teams, a couple of days training, go set up a team. And that fails every time.
You mentioned Kanban, but also there is Lean. What is the difference, Keith, between Lean and Kanban? Sometimes people might think they're the same and they are not, right?
They're not. And people think lean has gone away. It's not. Lean's been around since the 40s. It comes from Toyota manufacturing. And the five lean principles are an overall umbrella over everything agile. If when I'm setting it out for clients, I go, okay, here's the five lean principles. That's an umbrella over the Agile Manifesto, 4 values, 12 principles. And then now, if I'm implementing SAFe, there are 10 principles there. Everybody's head gets kind of confused, but we show it as a hierarchical breakdown: Lean, Agile Manifesto, and then the principles that apply to the method that you've adopted. So we still align to those principles, like each product should have a value. If it doesn't have a value, don't do it. Like, for example, identifying the value stream for your product. And if it doesn't fit a value stream, do you need to make a new one, or do you need to not do it? And like, for example, ensure the flow of value. That's where Kanban comes in. So Kanban does come from Lean. It's about flow and flow optimization, visualizing and optimizing the flow. I'm a Kanban management professional, and I'm a big believer in using Kanban. I don't care what your underlying method is: waterfall, Scrum, SAFe. And SAFe has got 4 Kanban boards built into the framework to manage the flow of epics at the portfolio level, capabilities at the solution level, um, uh, features at the art level, and stories at the team level. So the flow part is one of the lean principles, and it's been incorporated into SAFe, and it's an umbrella over Agile.
Yeah, you just mentioned value, and I started thinking here. about the shift that we observed when we were pretty much working on the PMI, best practices, and etc. How PMI started focusing in project management success, and how they shifted not too far back to project success, not project management
Yes.
success. So project manage, okay, you do what have to be done, you deliver on time, within budget, what the client asks, and that's it, done. No, and now PMI is, it's about the value. It's about the benefits that you realize, right? And how is that part of the agile environment?
In fact, Agile is
That
often called
focus on
value
value.
driven, where waterfall is called plan driven. So when we write a story at that lower level, the story format is who, what, why. So as an iPhone user, the who, I want a pocket socket. Now, who in the right mind is going to pay $10 for a piece of plastic and rubber to go on the back of the phone? It has to have a $10 value. And to me, it does. It makes it easier to hold my phone and less likely for me to drop it. If you're scratching your head and you can't think of a why, don't do it. It's not a value. If you're writing a feature and you can't think of a benefit hypothesis, like for example, this Yeti cooler, it cost me $30. $30 for a can to hold a can? Who in their right mind is going to buy that? Well, it's got to have a value. It does. It keeps my Coke Zero cold for 6 hours. To me, living in a hot climate in Florida, that was worth $30. So yeah, we're at all levels, story, feature, epic, thinking, does this have a value? And if it doesn't, don't do it.
Very good, very good. So, talking a little bit about change, you also mentioned the importance of change and how Agile incorporates change more often. It's easy to adjust to changes. How important it is nowadays to be more flexible related to changes in your perspective? Because I think you agree we live in this VUCA world, volatility,
Yeah.
uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. Things are changing all the time. How important that is to manage changes in not only agile, but in any environment.
Yeah, and the world is changing now at a rate at which we haven't seen before, and AI is only going to move that faster. So if you've got a method that says we do a business case 3 months, we get it approved 3 months, we go through building a team, forming, storming, norming, performing 2 months, then we plan, design, build. A year later, we're releasing something. Now that's not going to work because the environment's changing too fast. That release is now redundant. So we have to have an ability to react to change and to be able to reprioritize our work. It's essential for the survival of organizations and even big organizations. Take a look at Kodak. In 1975, they developed the digital camera. When it came time to go digital, they kind of sat there. We're paper and film. And why didn't they leverage their brand recognition, which was second only to Coke across the world, and become the leading digital image company? They didn't. Take a look at BlackBerry. They owned the smartphone market space. We didn't call them smartphones or iPhones. We called them Blackberries. People even called them crackberries because people were so addicted to it. But along comes giant competition, Google, Apple. Customers are saying, we want a flat screen. Nah, you're good with our kludgy
Everybody
keyboard.
needs a keyboard.
Yeah, everybody needs a
Exactly.
keyboard. We want apps. You don't need any stinking apps. 4 years to go from owning a market space to being a non-player. Wow, that's moving fast. You've got to be understanding what this change is, leverage AI to help you understand trends and whatnot, and then have an appropriate approach, an agile approach that allows you to adjust to these changes.
So you mentioned garbage in, garbage out, and how much people are using AI and using AI to make decisions. So I think there is a challenge here to make a decision without knowing if the data is accurate or anything like that.
Yeah.
I was talking to a colleague, expert in AI, Dr. Bakawi, and he was saying, Leon, when we do an AI implementation, and I also talked with Jim Boland from IBM Consulting, and say the data part is the less glamorous, but absolutely crucial to any project we do of implementation, because you can build everything else. If it's bad data, as you just mentioned, then you're going to have a bad output, right? So what do you think is the impact on decisions when people don't use critical thinking? How you foresee more problems maybe than solutions if people don't pay attention to that?
You sure can, because the data can easily be biased based on the information it was fed, and it can lean to one demographic or another demographic, and you could be all wrong. One thing that we're seeing is AI systems that have got a limited focus. For example, in Scaled Agile Framework, they implemented Microsoft Copilot, but it only
Mhm.
looks at their knowledge base. So therefore, you can have a much greater trust. If you used Gemini or Copilot outside, you don't know if it's looking at version 3, version 4, or the latest version 6. You don't know if it's based on some data that people have fed that's totally inaccurate about it. So narrowing the scope or the data of which your AI tool looks at is going to be another very important step.
In your experience looking to your clients, what are they using mostly AI for when they are managing their agile teams and etc.? What is that people are using? Which chatbot or which application? What is the number one use that you see right now?
It's a combination of those three: ChatGPT, Gemini, and Copilot. There's a lot of others that have specific capabilities, like Gamma for creating PowerPoints and other ones. But those
I
seem to
use Gamma. It's very
you
good.
like
Yeah.
it? Yeah, I'm actually
Yeah.
just trying to figure it out because I've used others to create PowerPoints, and I'm not too impressed with what they've been able to output yet. So there are AI tools that are getting more specialized, but mostly and I just finished teaching a class on safe product owner product management, and we have a whole AI chapter in that. And all the people are saying they're using Gemini or Copilot, and none of them, even though two of them were from very large corporations, have paid for the extra upgrade service, which is typically like $20 a
Just a
month.
free version.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm sure as they're using it, they're going to see that there's maybe some things are locked out in that the paid version could have. And then as they use it more and more, they'll explore the tools that have more specific focus, like creating PowerPoints.
And also, in your experience, Keith, I'm curious, what is that people are investing more training on? Is to become a product owner, scrum master, general view on AI, is to know more about a specific approach like Scrum or Safe. Where do you think more demand coming from on the
Well,
training side?
from my perspective, it is coming from SAFE, Scaled Agile Framework, because a lot of organizations have already implemented Scrum and they're looking to scale. So, the teaching, the certified Scrum Master, certified Scrum Product Owner, there's over 1.5 million certified Scrum Masters already out there from Scrum Alliance.
Wow.
But now they're having to scale and they need to understand, how do we work as a team of teams. But I teach 7 different Scaled Agile Framework courses. The most popular one is the product owner, product manager. And it
Ah,
includes a lot about design thinking. I would recommend people read about design thinking. It is cool stuff. The personas, the customer journeys, the empathy maps, the whole product thinking, the story maps. It's all really good stuff to put yourself in the shoes of the customer and figure out what they want. So that would, if I was talking to a younger person right now, they're saying, what should I learn? Agile number 1, underneath the Agile, learn about design thinking, and number 2, figure out how AI is going to help you in your chosen profession.
and when you say design thinking, you talk about product
Exactly.
management, right? Not project, it's product. It's understand the product, the value of the product, the features, and how to represent that to your team so they can deliver what is valuable for the client.
It's true, but a project, according to PMI, is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. So you're creating something that should be something that you've put really good thought to what is going to be the greatest and best item. Let me give you an example of it. Uber added this 1-minute warning into your app, right? So they were looking at the customer journey from logging in to ordering the vehicle and whatnot. Then they're thinking, okay, now they're waiting. What would they like? They're in that part of the activity of waiting. Gee, they don't want to be standing outside in the miserable weather. They like a 1-minute warning. So as an Uber passenger, I would like a 1-minute warning that my car is there so I can come outside as required. Boom, little things like that adding to the journey makes a much better solution. And that's a design thinking principle to create story maps, stories underneath the journey.
Excellent. All right, we are getting close to our end here. I would like to ask you for one or two books that were instrumental for you in your career, that made a difference. Could be technical, fictional, any type of book that you found inspiring, useful for your professional career.
Well, the number one book I recommend to everybody is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You can say, oh, Keith, that's written in 84.
Yeah.
But it's still good. And when you read it, think about your roles. The 7 Habits of a Highly Effective Scrum Master. Be proactive. Proactively identify impediments. Makes kind of sense. Begin with the end in mind. Okay, that's habit 2. When we're doing the iteration or sprint planning, start to talk about what they'll be demoing in 2 weeks from now. Put first things first. Prioritize what you need to do. Number 4, think a win-win. It's got to be a win for our customers as well as a win for the team. Number 5, we're not just going to randomly say, here's stuff we think they want. We're going to seek first to understand, then to be understood. Number 6, which is what Agile's all about, synergizing. Value and respect other people's ideas and opinions. And number 7, sharpen the saw. That's what the retro is for. So yeah, 7 Habits of Highly Effective Scrum Masters, product owners, whatever the role happens to be in Agile. I'd recommend that. The other one that I enjoyed reading, it's called The Phoenix Project. It's a novel about IT leveraging DevOps. So anybody who's worked in IT, you can go, man, I can relate to this. And it goes through a series of problems that this one poor soul has as he's trying to manage IT operations, yet everybody's focus is on the Phoenix Project. So it's a really good read.
Thank you. And before I let you go, final thoughts for our viewers and listeners here. What would you like to tell them?
Well, I'd like to say, learn what you can about Agile. It's here to stay. And if you're a knowledge worker, you have to know this. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Also, learn what you can about artificial intelligence. I mean, you can rebel against it and talk about the downfalls that may or may not be true, but it's a tool that you can leverage to be successful in your career.
Keith, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Always nice chatting with you. And as I usually tell our guests, I hope we have a chance to catch up sometime in the future. If you're open to it, we can catch up in 6 months, a year from now, see how things are moving, because it is changing so fast, right?
Yeah, and come on down and visit us in Florida. Get out of that cold weather in the New York area, and we'll have a few beers and continue this conversation.
Thank you so much, Keith. Have a nice day.
Thanks. Bye.